I've never really been very good at setting sort of time-based goals, so within 5 years I'll be here, within 10 years I'll be there. I kind of just set some basic principles on what I wanted to do and what I wanted my job to look like, and kind of on a semi-annual or annual basis I would kind of ask myself, do I feel like I'm getting closer or further? And I didn't really have to know where I was getting closer or further from. I was just playing that gut feel of, is this headed in the right direction or not? Yeah, I just kind of kept feeling my way through it, and that actually led me to a master's degree down in mines in environmental science, and then to an MBA here in Boulder.
I started working for a manager in the environmental department who gave me an opportunity to become an environmental technician, so she mentored me. She really saw that potential in me and my passion for sustainability and my ability to recognize a need in the company for those kinds of initiatives. So with her support, she helped push me in this direction, and here I am.
In college, I worked at the Environmental Center here at CU and got a lot of experience in energy efficiency, doing energy efficiency work for students. Graduating with a degree in environmental studies and sustainable development, I just continued to work in the field. I did consulting work for Western Disposal right after I graduated, and then worked at the Center for Resource Conservation, and then finally landed a part-time job at UCAR, and that turned into a full-time job, which turned into a manager role.
How I got started, actually, I've always had this really strong interest in how organizations can have a positive impact. And so when I was in college, I went to Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania, I was looking around saying that there's all these environmental activities happening and no one's coordinating it. There's like a little bit of energy efficiency, and there's a push for solar panels, and there's recycling. And that was when having a recycling program was a new thing. Like, I actually started the recycling program, so this was, a few years ago. And I proposed a position that if I had done it now, I would have called a sustainability coordinator position, but we didn't have the word sustainability at the time. Well, it turns out that I didn't get that position funded, but I ended up going into land conservation, working in that area for a while, and as I started getting into a management role within a nonprofit in land conservation, I just kept continuing to have this interest in how can you make business and management decisions that are going to be more sustainable and that are going to really get to the point that organizations can be building the world that we want to live in. So that actually landed me to what was the inaugural sustainability program manager position at UCAR. I had a chance to do that for about 5.5 years, and then after that I moved into consulting roles. There's no way I could have guessed my path 5 years ago, 10 years ago when I was in college, but I just kept following things that I was really interested in and continually learning and continually finding people that I could learn from. And I think a lot of times when we talk about networking, we talk about that as just finding people who can help you find a job, but it's really about finding people you can build a deep relationship with over time. And if I hadn't been building relationships with people, I wouldn't be able to start doing things like multinational stakeholder engagement, which feels really great to say that I get to do that. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't built relationships with people who could help me get there.
Job at the hospital opened up for 10 hours a week as a recycling coordinator. 2 years later, I was able to convince our folks to make it a full-time position, and proudly as the first sustainability coordinator in the healthcare industry. But really what boils down to is, and I think all of us, you're hearing it, is really this sense of, I want to contribute, but I'm not quite sure. The word sustainability seems so great now. I think what's really important, and from my perspective, is to really consider that word in a sense. When we talk about sustainability, when I ask that question, and I'm not going to ask that of a general population of you guys, but most of the times when I say, what are we trying to sustain, right? What is it we're trying to sustain here? And most people, the answer will be the environment, and that's great. Most people say resources, and that's great. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to sustain is human life. I had no idea when I was a 21-year-old out of IU as a journalism major and wanted to go into advertising that one day I'd be a sustainability coordinator, but I knew that I wanted to do something that was meaningful in my life. I didn't know what that meant. Defining your own path is really the key component. What do you want to be? What are you interested in? Go do it. Don't wait for a resume. I mean, with all due respect, I understand the whole idea of resumes and interviews. If you want a job in a hotel industry working on sustainability, Go to a hotel and say, I want to be your sustainability coordinator. If you want to work with animals and you want to work on sustainability, go to an animal sanctuary and say, I want to be your sustainability coordinator. Do it. Don't wait for someone to say, hey, I've got a position, who would like to fill it? That's the kind of people who are up here today.
I'm the technician. And technically what that means is I spend a lot of my time doing regulatory compliance reporting, environmental compliance. Also, my department handles health and safety, which is a sustainability issue as well. So that's another way you can come at it, is through health and safety. So OSHA compliance, EPA compliance, state, county, city compliance with air emissions, wastewater, all of that kind of environmental regulation stuff. And then within that role, I have the freedom in my job and the support of my management team to explore sustainability initiatives at my company. For example, right now I'm looking at how we're buying a lot of material for production that we're wasting, and it's being treated and sent offsite as hazardous waste. So we're paying for it, we're paying to store it, we're paying to throw it away, and it's never even opened or used because we have these minimum buys that we have to buy from the government. So I have the freedom, though, within my daily duties of reporting compliance and doing inspections to work on these broader projects for sustainability. But I have to be the one to have that initiative to recognize, hey, there's an opportunity right here. Let me dig deeper. Let me work with these stakeholders from finance and from accounting or whatever to get all the costs involved and just really look at the data and then show that data to the people who make the decisions. I'm not the policy creator. I'm just like, hey, look at all this, and hey, maybe we could do something with it. And then the executive management has to make a decision from there down.
So at the hospital, we used to get cardboard boxes from this is very mundane stuff, but it has a huge impact. We used to get cardboard boxes from our distributor that would give us materials every single day. For about 2 years, I was politically working with our distributor to say, why don't you give us hard containers? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Continue. Why don't you give us hard containers? Being, vigilant. Now what happens is our distributor hands us in totes all of our materials, and so we no longer have to even recycle cardboard containers. Now that's part of sustainability because you don't have to make the cardboard box, right? You don't have to recycle it. Recycling is great, but if you don't have to recycle it at all, that's even better. Reducing FTEs to actually have to break down a cardboard box and recycle it, there's funding. So that move in and of itself, because I saw that was one of the inefficiencies in our hospital, that move in itself saved our hospital about $50,000 in cost avoidance and cost savings, not to include what the distributor paid for the box. Now that's just one example, but I think that's right. We're constantly looking for opportunities, but also more importantly, in my mind, is you're building culture within our organization. One of the things you realize about human beings is I can't make you do anything. But when you go into an organization and they're doing a project, they do something, to ask them to do something a little bit differently, that's a real challenge professionally. So what you do is you build a culture within your organization so that their values are aligned with that culture, and there are lots of ways to do that, so that they want to do it, so that they do want to collect medical supplies to send to Project Cure or what have you.
An example is I work with the United Nations Federal Credit Union, and they're an affiliate of the United Nations. So what comes with that is that they're really working hard to incorporate the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Global Compact, into their actual day-to-day operations, which is phenomenal because I've got an incredibly motivated organization, a global operation, and a really strong set of values. But what happens is that a lot of companies don't have people like us that are there. I'm working with a team of people who are smart and capable in their areas, and I'm doing a lot of analysis for them. So I'm doing things like a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. I'm doing energy analysis. I'm looking at what are their most important environmental and social impacts. But really the big thing that I'm doing for them is helping them figure out how to build the capacity, how to self-organize, how to take someone who's a project manager in IT and help them lead a sustainability team. How can I work with someone who oversees banking operations and help them know what do they need to do differently in their job for sustainability?
We want to know that you're going to get along well with the team. We want to know how you handle customer complaints. We want to know how you handle problems, how you handle pressure, deadlines, all of those things that you really can't really put on a resume. But if you can find a way to put that stuff on a resume, even if you led a team at Burger King We don't care. We want to see an example of how you managed a difficult situation and then applied it and came out with a good outcome, because that's stuff that you can't really learn. We can't train you how to do that stuff. We can train you on engineering all day, but we need you to walk in the door with those soft skills already.
A week after I graduated, I basically went on LinkedIn and found people who had careers that I wanted to have. And I reached out to them and I said, you are pursuing a career that I really admire, and I want to learn how I can do that. Like, can we meet for coffee? And literally within a month, I had 2 people offering me a job. And it's really that simple. Sustainability is a fast-moving field, and I wouldn't necessarily hold on to one skill with all your might, because by the time you're an expert in that, the whole system has changed.
In addition to, I could not agree more with the how you work with people being an important skill, but each one of you also has something else that is unique in addition to your passion for sustainability. Think about the thing that is like the specific thing you're good at, and when you're doing that LinkedIn stalking, and when you're showing your passion, and when you're going out to get that job, connect with people about that. If someone says, look, I'm super interested in that, or someone says, you know what, you're a business owner, I aspire to be a business owner, I want to talk to you about that, get specific with those networking. Because if someone gets in touch with me and just says, I want a career in sustainability, I can't help them. It's too broad, it's too general. But if someone says, you know what, I am passionate about, I really want to do this thing. When you're making those connections, think about something that you're uniquely interested in, something you're uniquely good at, something you've accomplished in your academic career, and talk to professionals about it and say, how can I turn this into a job?
Sustainability as a field is sort of like talking about medicine. So, you can have somebody who has great expertise in prosthetics and a surgeon, and they probably know almost nothing about each other's jobs. Very similar in sustainability. You'll have folks who are great at sustainability communications, marketing, some of that messaging pieces, and then you could find somebody who's got a very technical engineering or science degree who does quantitative life cycle assessment of products and figures out the carbon footprint of this microphone. Amazingly different skill sets. So, to that point, take what you've got, and because it really will be, there are sustainability people in finance, there are sustainability people in HR, all those different skill sets that are traditional skill sets you'll get in school are all valuable, they're just valuable in different ways.
I think we're really moving into some really interesting territory when a governor signs a bill and a business says, yeah, we don't like that bill, because they know that their talent is going to be affected by that. We're in a brand new world when it comes to business and values. To me, it's so broad, but what we're starting to realize is that we're starting to connect the dots. It used to be when you grew up, you buy a product and you really didn't know where the product came from, and that's okay, because don't worry about what's behind the curtain. Well, now we know what's behind the curtain, and we're concerned about it because it affects us in so many different ways. And we're raising children who are more value-oriented, are asking questions and wondering. And I think sustainability is going to continue to grow, and it's going to get even deeper in organizations.
To echo what Kim said about all those skill sets you mentioned, every single one of those things is important and valuable when you're a sustainability coordinator. You have to communicate, you have to write, you have to crunch numbers, you have to like data, you have to do statistics, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I would just really, and again to what you said, Kai, about come on up, we need you. The millennials who we're hiring are definitely driving that push towards sustainability. And I would say too, in the global marketplace, our government can do whatever they want to, but from where I sit at Ball, it's customers that drive sustainability. The government can make any policies or disband the EPA or whatever. That's not going to change how my company does business on a day-to-day basis. We're still going to adhere to EPA regulations. We still have to meet our government, our county, and state regulations. That's not going to change. So yeah, your passion in the private life with your consumer dollars and your passion in your industry with your career is what's going to make sustainability go forward. I totally agree with that.
60% of Americans would prefer to work at a company that is purpose-driven and sustainable. What that means is that sustainability is becoming a business imperative for hiring. That is incredibly important in the business world. And that's something that until you have more experience, whether it's in business, nonprofit, government, whichever sector you go into, you'll start to see how incredibly competitive it is to find the best people who want to be there. And why that's really important to you in terms of careers, it's partly that you're already pulling companies in this direction, but it also means that business is becoming the engine of sustainability, even more than government, even more than nonprofits. I know I could get arguments on that, but that's really my view. Something that is also incredibly unique, the amount of corporate involvement in speaking out against some of the current administration's policies. I'm not going to get into this in terms of policies, good, bad, and different, and talking about politics, but when you see the level of business involvement that's happening, those of us up here in the panel, we've never seen that before in our careers. When you've got major statements coming out with businesses saying, we expect sustainability, we expect climate change to be addressed, we expect environmental protection, that is a massive sea change. It's huge, and that's going to make a lot of difference in business, and it also means that a lot of sustainability jobs that are affecting sustainability are not going to have sustainability in the title. In fact, the majority are not going to have sustainability in the title, but you're going to be supporting sustainability even from your place in HR or marketing or finance or accounting, or it might be the sustainability department, but you're going to be influencing those decisions whether or not you have that title.
Sustainability doesn't come from the top. You don't have strong sustainability programs because somebody regulated it. You know, you can meet the regulations without having a strong sustainability program. So it's a grassroots effort, and leaders are responding to the grassroots outpour of support, whether it's the staff or their customers. So just keep pushing and demonstrate that you value it, and it'll keep happening.
When I started as the sustainability program manager at UCAR, I had all these things that we were working on, and despite being the hub of the most amazing climate science happening on this planet, no one had ever done a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So one of the first things I did in the sustainability program was say, guys, we've got to do this. And all the things, I agree 100% with everything Chelsea said, so I'm not going to repeat it. But what I want to tell about this story is once we started having data about not just the carbon emissions, but also looking at different parts of the operation and where the relative impacts were, that's when I started getting a lot of buy-in from the scientists and the executives to start taking action, because they could see the numbers. And I was able, as the sustainability manager, to support management conversations about where should we focus our efforts, what's more important. It's more important to look at the data center than to look at trying to save fuel in the aircraft, because we have those numbers.
I'm looking for an awareness of, like, have you mapped your supply chain risks? Do you understand what your downstream risks at the customer end are? Are you proactively looking at those issues? And so, you know, folks might say, yes, we've done this tracing. Okay, what programs do you have in place? So what are you doing? And if they start reaching and it starts to sound like a communications program, the chances are they might not be doing very much. They also might not be able to tell you a lot in some cases.
I would ask, if I were you, I would ask the company, why are you doing this program? Why is this a priority for your company? Why is it a priority for your company culture?
If you can talk to someone in the company who's not the sustainability coordinator and ask them about sustainability or what is the sense of purpose of the company, and they give you an answer, they're not going to know everything. But if they can say, yeah, we do all this, this is what we do, even if it's not a perfect answer, you know that it's part of the culture. If the only person who can answer that question is the sustainability coordinator or someone in marketing or PR or HR, they're probably not robust. However, I wouldn't say that doesn't mean you shouldn't work at the company. If they've got a good culture and you've got an opportunity to come in and to be able to push towards sustainability, you might have the opportunity to take a company that's ready for sustainability and get them there.
Yeah.